Have a story to tell? I believe you. Ghost, cryptids, the unknown. Let's talk about it. This is My GhostCast. Hey guys, welcome back to My GhostCast, Ghost fans. On this episode, we talked to a friend of mine, professor at the University of Texas A&M, Corpus Christi, named Joe Pena. He brings us some pretty cool stories from an area called Heritage Park. So stay tuned and don't be scared. Hey guys, welcome back to My GhostCast. I'm your host, Therese Gonzalez. Today, I have a pretty cool guest on who's got some pretty interesting stories from my hometown in Corpus Christi. This is Joe Pena.
Hello,
Hey, Joe.
hello. How you doing? Thank you, Therese, for having me on your cast. I really appreciate it.
No, thank you for being on here. I'm pretty excited about it. Now, Joe has been he has been in the art area of expertise for some time now. He's a professor at Texas A&M University, Corpus Christi. He has a master's of arts, right? Or a master's of
Fine arts, you got it.
fine arts. There you go. Unlike my art, not so fine, but his is fine. So he lived in New York for 10 years working as an art preparator. There you go. So, Joe, welcome to the show.
Well, thank you. Thank you again for having me. I really appreciate it. It's great to join you on this. So it's great.
All right. So, Joe, how do we know each other? So let's start there.
Well, it's funny. I've been practicing with a former mentor of mine. Excuse me, Richard Elizondo in Munjinkan. So I had met you at one of the conferences. Seminars, excuse me, I apologize. And I had met you, and boy, I immediately thought this guy is a great guy. Not only an amazing martial artist, an amazing instructor, but just a great guy. So,
go on.
Thoroughly impressed. Thoroughly impressed with you from the get-go. So glad to be here. So,
Thanks, man. I remember when I met Joe a few years back, and he stood out. I actually was like, okay, this guy's. I can tell he's really open to learning the stuff that's being taught. And he was with a really close friend of mine. Again, he mentioned Richard Elizondo, great friend of mine. Unfortunately, he's passed away. But from here and there, I get to go to Corpus and go say hi to the guys with my fist. And
I still feel that one right here. So,
well, we're all gluttons for punishment, aren't we?
Oh, you better believe it. You better believe it. And I should just add that Richard's instruction, has just been continuing, and we're just so happy that his spirit lives on with us. So, yeah.
Richard's a awesome guy. Really great friend of mine. I've known him practically for 2 decades. So, but no,
always spoke highly of you. So,
all right. Well, cool, guys. Joe's going to tell us a little bit about when we get back from our commercial, he's going to tell us a little bit about some of the houses in Corpus. There's a thing called Heritage Park. Am I right, Joe?
That's right.
Yeah. So hold on, grab some popcorn, use the bathroom, do what you need to, and we'll see you shortly. We'll be right back. Hey guys, welcome back to My GhostCast. Our guest host is Joe Pena. Joe's going to tell us a little bit about an area called Heritage Park in Corpus Christi and a couple of the houses and incidents there. Joe?
That's right. That's right. Thank you again. So for a period of time there, I had was hired by the city of Corpus Christi to work in the Parks and Recs department. And specifically, I worked at that time, I'm not sure if it still is, but at the time it was housed, the offices were located in Heritage Park. And so Heritage Park is a collection of Victorian homes that have been moved from different locations across from Corpus to this collection of Victorian homes that people can take tours of. And so it's a beautiful location. People go there for ceremonies. They used to have the Jazz Fest there. I'm not sure if they still do, but then people get married there, things of that sort. So there's a gallery that I used to operate that is there, and so it's just a wonderful collection of Victorian homes that date back to the 1800s. So that was what I had where I'd been working. So the home that I worked in, and I'm going to look at my notes because I don't want to get dates wrong, but the home that I worked at was called the Galvan House, and that was built in 1908 and then was purchased in 1942 by the Galvan family. And Raphael, I'm also a big fan of history, which is why I really enjoyed working there. But that home was purchased by Raphael Galvan, who was the first Mexican-American police officer in Corpus Christi.
Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah, and he also established the very famous Galvan Ballroom, so their family is still very prevalent in Corpus. So it was great to work there. Then that was the house that I worked at, nominally. So would you like me to talk about some of the other homes?
Yeah, please do.
Right into it.
Feel free to jump into any of the other homes and Civil War and all kinds of cool stuff.
You got it. Okay. Well, before I begin, I should let you know that these are based on my own accounts, and are not endorsed by the Parks and Rec Department or the City of Corpus Christi, okay? So I just want to let everybody know about that. This is what I've been exposed to. And so there have been stories while I was working there. I would meet the other individuals. So what ended up happening is that a number of the homes that are now housed there in Heritage Park became offices. And the upkeep that, different organizations would come in and have their offices there. And it was a great little community, to tell you the truth. And so one of the homes, and so I'm sorry, invariably I would get people coming up to me and telling me about some little stories that they would hear, and it was always one of those things where it's like, I've always been, I've never had the pleasure of witnessing anything. It's always happened to other people. But I got some great stories, and so I'd always hear all these great stories coming from people that worked in the other homes. One of the homes that I want to talk about is the Merriman Bobby's house. And that was actually originally built in 1851. Again, love history, by Walter Merriman. And it's actually the second oldest structure existing in Corpus Christi. But at a time there, the house was actually apparently a makeshift hospital during the Civil War. And I would get stories from different organizations that had worked there that there were specific spots in the house that were always cold, much colder than the other parts of the house. So, and I always thought it was kind of really interesting about that. So they would tell me which spots, and I would go there, and it was chilly. But they would say there were certain times that if you went there, you could actually see frost forming on glasses. So,
man, that's uncommon for Corpus too, man, because it's like always hot and humid there.
1,000 degrees all the time. So.
It is that, and I always had to have the extra towel to be able to absorb all the juices coming from my body.
And they would always say that, no matter how, they had an AC, so no matter how cold the AC was, if it was set to whatever, you'd go to these certain spots and it would be much colder, so maybe they just had really great AC at that spot. But
maybe not.
The unusual thing is that the spots would shift, so I'm not sure. but maybe it had something to do with that specific, the history of it being a hospital, you know.
Yeah, that's got a lot of stuff. I used to teach Texas history, and within Texas history, you kind of hit up aspects of the Civil War. So, looking at all the munitions and stuff at the time, the carbine rifles they were using, that was newer technology, and that stuff was hidden. And although the technology was ahead of its time, the medical aspect was not even close to anywhere near the newest technology. So,
of course,
it's pretty gory. A lot of the stories when you start hearing about what was happening.
Well, and especially with it being a makeshift hospital, the amputations that were necessary, you know.
Yeah, almost everything was amputation or putting worms on you or something, you know, leeches or something.
Yeah. Okay. And then other stories I would hear from the house would be, you know, a lot of the kind of common things that you would hear about noises, objects being moved, things of that sort. But the frost was always something that I always found interesting.
Yeah, the frost definitely is an awkward one because, you know, living in Corpus for so long, I'm like, I can't even get frost in the refrigerator, much less, you know.
That's right. So the other home that I would hear stories about was another house called the Grande Grossman House. And again, I'm looking at my screen, so I just want to get the date correct. It was built in 1904. It was a home to Benito Ben Grande. And the Grande men, along with his brothers, owned the Ben Grande Saloon, which was one of the largest and last old-fashioned cantinas in Corpus. And so I'm not sure what happened to that cantina, but boy, I would have loved to have visited it, you know.
Oh man, that sounds pretty cool. If there's anything when I come back into town, I want to go take some pictures or see if there's anything left.
Absolutely. I would constantly hear stories from different organizations that would house their offices in that house about a lot of shadows, if you will, a lot of lights flickering, a lot of things being moved. They would specifically hear a lot of conversations happening upstairs. You know? And so when there were usually only one or two people there, they would always hear a lot of really heated arguments going on upstairs. So I don't know if the house was actually a saloon. I think it was. Maybe that was what I'm remembering correctly, that the house was actually the saloon. But yeah, again, I'll take some photos for you. But that there was always a lot of heated arguments going on, and you would hear plates being smashed or glass being broken upstairs. So yeah, and I would always wait because I would always see the person that was working there at the time. They'd come in and they would say, "It was another one of those days."
What? You know, it's funny you say that, right? So as a kid growing up in my new neighborhood out there by the all down Rodfield, you know, in our old neighborhood, not the old neighborhood, the new neighborhood, but
yes.
The new house I'd always hear, and it was at night, I'd hear a bunch of people having a conversation in my living room. It would wake me up as a kid, and I hear a whole bunch of people, and I'm like, wow, is that my parents talking? Oh, let me see if they got something juicy they're talking about there. And I'd hear from the other side of the house. So I was thinking they were in the living room whispering. So then I would head over there and sneak over there, and as I get closer, and there was also a cold feeling. There's that cold feeling. As I'd get across the threshold, I'd hear, and right when I crossed the threshold into the living room, you'd hear, it would stop.
Wow.
And I would still walk all the way to my parents' room and go just listen to see, and I'd hear, and I'm like, they're asleep. They're not talking cheese man. I'm like, let me go. So I go back and lay back down and try to fall asleep, and then it just start back up again. It was like lots of people in the living room having conversations.
That's interesting.
Creepy, wow, very creepy. That's what that kind of connects with what you were saying. I was like, wow.
Yeah. So it was great to hear what they would say. You know, and again, as I said, I've never really had anything happen to me, and I've always been a bit of a skeptic. but hearing a lot of people come in with stories, I was always fascinated. That is until I tell you a little bit more about that third house.
All right, guys, we'll be right back. Our guest is Joe Pena. You're watching My GhostCast.